Today at Next Medical Affairs, we speak with Andrew Rosen, who will inspire with some great thoughts about real-world evidence and medical affairs. So let's deep dive into the discussion, Andrew. And my very first question is, what role plays real-world evidence in medical affairs, and how to connect these functions even better?
Right. So, in my view, real world evidence is the future of medicine. And I know that sounds a bit hyperbolic and I'm a bit partial given my role at Moderna, but there are several reasons that I feel this way. At the most fundamental level, real world evidence and real world data means that our understanding of our medicines, therapies, vaccines, it doesn't end at the conclusion of a clinical trial. It means that we continue to be committed to understanding the effectiveness and safety of these medicines in the real world setting for the years that follow the launch. And it's our responsibility. At times, it's a post-marketing requirement, but at other times, it's just something that we should take on as a commitment and accountability. Um, there are various challenges to this, both technical and administrative. Some of these relate to where you are in the world and how accessible real world data is. In the US is probably the most permissive and accessible, and there are many ways of access. In Europe and other parts of the world, we have to approach it in a different way, but there are solutions in place. The importance of real world evidence, I think, is evident in the creation of dedicated regulatory pathways and centers of excellence from the FDA, the emergence of AI, ML, so machine learning as a medical device regulatory pathway. Seeing the uptake of real world evidence as applied in mainstream medicine is really exciting. So beyond this fundamental capability of knowing how effective our medicines are, how safe they are in the real world setting, it also means the personalization of medicine via data. We don't have to treat every person as their disease. Each individual is unique. And what we can do is understand how a medicine was fared, how effective, how well tolerated, how expensive, all of these different things based on the unique properties of a patient. Clinical trials are by design and by necessity extremely controlled. There are set inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria, and the care and oversight is much more than you would see in a real world setting. It's necessary, but how things pan out in the real world, it could be quite different. So using that data to inform, is this the right therapy for my patient? Will they tolerate it? Will they adhere to the therapy? How much benefit are they really talking? And how do we look at that benefit in relation to the cost of the therapy? It's an opportunity for informed consent to really everything that a therapy entails. Real world evidence means greater inclusivity and equity, access to therapies, knowing where there are areas of unmet need as a medical affairs organization, being able to target physicians that have patients that are at high risk for a disease, communities that are neglected and would benefit from access. There are just really an endless array of capabilities that relate to real world evidence, and I want to be mindful of time. So I can pause there, but happy to go further in my explanation.
Which challenges do you see in medical affairs for the time being?
Right. There are challenges that have always been fundamental to medical affairs, and there are challenges that are emerging. So some of the fundamental challenges are gathering insights. You have these field-facing medical colleagues. It's critical. We are at a pivotal point in medicine and at a crucial point in our position between medicine and our industry. So medical affairs sits at this point where you are bringing critical data, information about the therapies, vaccines, whatever it might be, to the medical community, but also gathering insights back from clinicians to inform our strategy and how we bring greater value So structuring those insights, sorting them, extracting the most salient points is always challenging. And I've enjoyed the rigorous debate and new ideas that I've been hearing in various conference settings and forums about what's the right way to do this. How do we, what technology do we employ? What processes? In what way do we distribute these insights? And I think that the approaches are changing. Something that's emerging as critical, and this relates to a new capability and challenge, is that increasingly clinicians are turning to social media, both for sharing information and gathering information, patients as well. So the emergence of the digital opinion leader has become prominent and has to be taken seriously. So how we gather these insights from the millions of different web pages and platforms is a challenge with some really exciting solutions that are coming to bear. Asynchronous communication with clinicians is exciting. Having a forum for continuous exchange that allows these extraordinarily busy individuals to visit and provide input over time. That's an exciting opportunity, but also it's a challenge. Finally, one challenge that's fundamental and we always wrestle with is how do we demonstrate our value as a medical affairs organization? It's how do we put a number on that? When you're in the commercial organization, it's very much oriented around revenue, to be frank. They generate the sales for the organization and the revenue, and you could put a dollars and cents amount to that. Medical affairs is by nature and critically an important, a very different type of part of the organization. We're incentivized differently, we engage differently, the approaches and the remit is quite different, but it's less inclined toward a value, to quantification. You could measure the number of meetings, the duration of meetings, but these are not really that salient. I think what goes further is what outcomes can we drive based on our exchange? How do we bring value to clinicians that is translated into longer, healthier, higher quality patient lives? And we need to keep working on our ability to find these insights and demonstrate the value.
How to avoid a commercial toxic environment in medical affairs, because we see that a lot of pharma is repeating the very same mistakes from commercial nowadays to medical affairs.
Yeah, there are always things that we do well as an industry and blunders, and there need to be learnings. The separation between medical affairs and commercial is necessary. It's required. But there's a balance here. We are both part of the same organization. We are working toward bringing our medicines to the patients that need them. But as I noted in my previous point, we're incentivized by different things, and I think it's critical that we are. Our sales colleagues are, for the most part, incredibly knowledgeable of the medicines as well, but they're limited in what they can speak to, and that's important. They are rewarded for the amount that they sell, how much revenue that they generate. We in medical affairs are rewarded by the relationships that we build and how effectively we communicate fair and balanced information. We need to keep, within medical affairs, we need to keep our eyes on the true value, which is patient outcomes. How do we bring forward information that translates into better medical decision making? If that means the use of our medicine and therapy, that's terrific. And if that means that patients are faring better in their disease, whether it's a cure or a treatment or a vaccine, the fact that they're deriving value and that they're healthier, that's what we need to keep our values oriented around. So it's that mission and vision from within medical affairs that's general to medical affairs, but then should be really well articulated for your company and your medical affairs organization. What do you see as the value proposition of your therapy? And what do you see as the core drivers of value for your organization? And what I would implore medical affairs organizations to do is to keep sight of that value and don't be pressured into looking at how many interactions without understanding the impact of those interactions. Don't make medical affairs numbers on a slide. Make it years of life or reduction in symptoms and relationships built, because that's what's most important.
Thanks, Andrew. Great discussion indeed, and take very good care.
Likewise, thank you, Dario.